I love false experiments. I am always making them. Light will be thrown on the origin of man and his history. It is necessary to look forward to a harvest, however distant that may be, when some fruit will be reaped, some good effected. Such simple instincts as bees making a beehive could be sufficient to overthrow my whole theory. One hand has surely worked throughout the universe. Only picture to yourself a nice soft wife on a sofa with good fire and books and music. The question of whether there exists a creator and ruler of the universe has been answered in the affirmative by some of the highest intellects that have ever existed. We are not here concerned with hopes or fears, only with truth, as far as our reason permits us to discover it. There is no fundamental difference between man and animals in their ability to feel pleasure and pain, happiness and misery. One general law leading to the advancement of all organic beings, namely multiply, vary, let the strongest live and the weakest die. A moral being is one who is capable of reflecting on his past actions and their motives, of approving of some and disapproving of others. At some future period, not very distant as measured by centuries, the civilized races of man will almost certainly exterminate and replace the savage races throughout the world. It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is the most adaptable to change. I have called this principle, by which each slight variation, if useful, is preserved, by the team of natural selection. Blushing is the most peculiar and most human of all expressions. Ignorance more frequently begets confidence than does knowledge. I am not the least afraid to die. It is always advisable to perceive clearly our ignorance. To kill an error is as good a service as, and sometimes even better than, the establishing of a new truth or fact. For the shield may be as important for victory as the sword or spear. Man in his arrogance thinks himself a great work, worthy of the interposition of a deity, more humble, and I believe truer, to consider him created from animals. Great is the power of steady misrepresentation. Man selects only for his own good, nature only for that of the being which she tends. Besides love and sympathy, animals exhibit other qualities connected with the social instincts which in us would be called moral. Intelligence is based on how efficient a species became at doing the things they need to survive. I am not apt to follow blindly the lead of other men. The love for all living creatures is the most noble attribute of man. We stopped looking for monsters under our bed when we realized that they were inside us. If I had my life to live over again, I would have made a rule to read some poetry and listen to some music at least once every week. Man tends to increase at a greater rate than his means of subsistence. The very essence of instinct is that it's followed independently of reason. A man who dares to waste 1 hour of time has not discovered the value of life. If the misery of the poor be caused not by the laws of nature, but by our institutions, great is our sin. Man is descended from a hairy-tailed quadruped, probably arboreal in its habits. I have tried lately to read Shakespeare, and found it so intolerably dull that it nauseated me. Animals, whom we have made our slaves, we do not like to consider our equal. A man's friendships are one of the best measures of his worth. It is a cursed evil to any man to become as absorbed in any subject as I am in mine. How paramount the future is to the present when one is surrounded by children. I am turned into a sort of machine for observing facts and grinding out conclusions. A scientific man ought to have no wishes, no affections, a mere heart of stone. The highest possible stage in moral culture is when we recognize that we ought to control our thoughts.